3, 2. Oh, I forgot to put a shirt on. Hold on. Crystal, is the recording going yet? It's on pause.
It's recording.
You gonna pause it?
Yeah.
All right, good morning, everyone. My name is Kristy Somerville-Midgette, Division Superintendent. We're gonna go ahead and get started. I wanna give you a brief overview of where we are, of what the structure is this morning. So I do wanna say welcome to all the parents and guardians that are on the call this morning. I did notice we do have some faculty and staff that's on the call. You will have a separate call tomorrow to give your feedback on the proposed plans. So I did want to make sure that you were aware of that. And I do recognize we do have faculty and staff that are parents and guardians. But if you don't fit one of those categories, I did want to put out there that you do have a separate call tomorrow to talk about the impact on faculty and staff. So again, if you are joining the call this morning, this will be a repeat at 7 p.m. tonight. So if you're joining now as a parent or guardian, you do not have to join tonight at 7 p.m. We are recording both of these, so they will be available online should you know of other parents or guardians who are unable to join either one of these calls. I do want to tell you who we do have on the line today and then explain the structure of today's meeting. We have Mrs. Rogers, she's our Assistant Superintendent of Instruction. We have Ms. Tiffany Brown, who is our Director of Personnel. We have Mrs. Crystal Pearson, who's our Director of Technology, and Ms. Leori Mallory, who's the Director of Pupil Personnel. We have Dr. Terrence White, who's the Principal at Tatero Elementary School. We have Mrs. Latanya Hutchison, who is the Principal of Meharry-Powelton Elementary School. We have Dr. Mark Harrison, who is the Principal of Red Oak Sturgeon Elementary. And we have Dr. Darnell Carter, who is the Principal of Russell Middle School. And we have Dr. Thornhill, who is the Principal of Brunswick High School. So all these individuals are on the call today. To the parents, we recognize the challenges. I know we got a lot of feedback from the survey and we really, really appreciate it. Over a 50% response rate in a relatively short amount of time, which was really valuable to us as we continue to craft these plans. Please understand that what you're presented today, these are plans that have been based on guidance that we've received from CDC, the Virginia Department of Health, from the Virginia Department of Education, and they fall within the governor's orders that have been presented to us. And so with that, probably several months ago, we developed task force teams to go through with this guidance, even before the governor released his guidance, to look at the models of instructional delivery that we can provide for our students, with the understanding that coronavirus and COVID-19 is new to all of us, and we want to make sure that we keep our children safe. So that was our number one focus in this throughout this process. So understand, as you see the draft plans today, that it's still subject to school board approval, and that also that these plans are fluid. You know, they can change. As we learned that when we shut down in March, we've learned much more about this coronavirus throughout this process. So we just ask you in advance for your flexibility, for your participation and engagement, as we strive to make sure that we're going to educate your students properly, but also really just making sure that we keep the students and faculty and staff safe. So as we go throughout this morning, some of you that are on using the computer, if you have questions, please drop them in the chat box. We will have an opportunity for question and answer. Those parents who are listening in via phone, there's a number that I need you to take down. And if you could send a text message, send your name and your question to 434-532-5175. And I'll say that again, it's 434-532-5175. And I'll repeat it again, or one of these fine panelists will remind me to repeat it again when we get to the question and answer section of today's call. So with that, I just want to explain a little bit more about the structure, and then we will get started. Ultimately, after I'm done, Mrs. Rogers, the assistant superintendent, is going to explain the instructional plan. Mrs. Pearson will lead in with technology support, because we recognize that that's been a big question for everyone. Ms. Mallory is going to talk about our health and mitigation strategies and the screening process. And then that will be followed up by Ms. Brown to talk about some other operational tasks that we need to adhere to. With that, I know that there have been questions about making sure that we had health professionals involved in this process. When Ms. Mallory gets to her section, there's nothing that she is presenting that has not been fully vetted by the VDH and her following the Department of Health and CDC guidance and working with the school nurses. So understand that health professionals have been a part of this process every step of the way. So right after they're done, we will do some Q&A. We thank those who submitted their questions early. To Mrs. Clary, we have those questions. We had some other questions come in as well as part of the last survey. And then again, if you're on the call on the computer, drop information in the chat box, and we'll get to those questions at the end. So without further ado, Mrs. Pearson is actually going to share her screen, and Mrs. Rogers is going to begin on the instructional part of it. And while we have our wonderful principals on the line, if there's something that you have specific, for their particular school, that's when we're going to have them chime in. Okay, thank you. Ms. Rogers.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much, Dr. Midgette. Ms. Pearson, if you will scroll down, as you notice, this plan is, as Dr. Midgette stated, still a draft. It will have a table of contents, which will enable you to find information quickly if you're only interested in certain information. If you'll scroll down. I included the phased reopening guidance that we received from the DOE so that parents who maybe have not seen this before will understand the guidance that we're following as we created these plans. So if you'll scroll down, Ms. Pearson, I'm not going to read through these, but I just wanted to provide it for parent information when you get this document so that you can see the guidance that we were given as we created our plan. We are hoping to be open under phase 3. So you'll see as you scroll through the phase 3 guidance. And then at the very end, just general guidance that applies to all phases, public health guidance, no matter what phase we are in, that we would then ask to include. So again, this is for parent information so that you will understand where we got our information as we drafted our plan. You can go down to the instruction. So of course, as Dr. Midgette said, our first priority is student safety, and we cannot thank the parents enough for completing the previous survey that we sent out, because your input was invaluable in drafting this plan. And based on those survey results, because a large number of parents indicated that they did not feel safe sending their child back to school, we are going to allow parents to opt for either the hybrid model, which means some face-to-face instruction and some virtual, or a full virtual model, meaning that all instruction will be done virtually. So we're going to explain each of the schedules for each level, elementary, middle, and high, so that you can see what that involves. At the elementary level, the first chart shows you which students would come to school on which days for the face-to-face instruction. So for example, on Monday, early childhood, pre-K, kindergarten, 2nd, and 5th will attend at Meharrin-Powelton, and you can see the students that would attend at Red Oak and also at Tetero. We prioritize based on the guidance that we were given that early learners, children in early childhood through third grade, needed more face-to-face instruction. So we have managed to work a schedule where they can come to school 2 days a week, starting in grades 4 through 8 will come 1 day a week. But we did want to prioritize for our earlier learners to come in and get more face-to-face instruction. You will notice that Friday is a teacher planning day for school grade level meetings, for professional development. As our teachers are working through this, they're going to continually need additional professional development, and they need a lot of extra time for planning, as now that we are running 2 models, the hybrid and the virtual, they have to prepare not only for the students who are coming in face to face each day, but for the students who will be working from home virtually at the same time. So that's going to take more time for our teachers. So that's why you see a day there for that planning. On the elementary virtual schedule here shows you that these are the grade levels that will be working from home on those same days. So while these students, early childhood and so forth, are in school, 1st, 3rd, and 4th at Meharrin-Powelton, for example, will be at home on that Monday. So you can use these two to see where your students would fall as far as whether they would be in school or working from home on any given day. You can scroll down. If they are working from home and it's a virtual day, this is generally what the schedule will look like. 8:20 to 9 will be breakfast for the students, and also office hours for the teachers, so that they can check in with students and parents, answer any emails or texts that they've received for communication and so forth. And then the day is just broken down into different blocks. We are allowing, of course, in the middle of the day, lunch and recess for our students, because it is important that they still get in that physical activity. We know they'll be doing that at home, but it's important. And then we have a remediation block at the end of the day that will be set up by the teachers based on the needs of the students. At the middle school level, you'll see a schedule for each grade level. They have decided to do face-to-face instruction on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays. So Monday will be a virtual day for all students, where they will start the week, introduce the new concept for the week, and then Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, 1/3 of each grade level will attend school. So on Tuesday, 1/3 of the 6th grade, 1/3 of the 7th grade, and 1/3 of the 8th grade will attend. So by the end of those 3 days, all of the students who choose the hybrid model will have come to school for one face-to-face day, but they won't all be there at the same time. And this is just a generic schedule, again, very similar to their normal schedule and during their normal school year for their electives and core classes. So you can scroll down, Ms. Pearson. It's important to note, again, the virtual classes on Monday, they will have the face-to-face on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. And for all of the virtual learning days, both for the elementary and the middle school, please be aware that because teachers are going to be in the school doing face-to-face instruction on certain days, the virtual learning at home will consist of pre-recorded videos or videos from Virtual Virginia, which is a platform we will be using, but it will not have face-to-face live lessons with teachers on those days, because those teachers are in the building doing live lessons with the students who are in the hybrid model. So if you choose the virtual model, just want to make sure that you are aware of that, and also that you understand that we're going to have to use all of our teachers potentially to cover other teachers if we have an absence or so forth. So there may be days that they are not always able to do the face-to-face virtual lessons with the students. You can scroll down, Ms. Pearson. And specific schedules will be mailed out once the schedules have been completed in our Power School system. At the high school level, we have decided to do a year-long schedule on an A and B day rotation. So students will be in all 8 classes all year long. since we do not know how long this phase 3 is going to last and when we may be able to go back to business as usual, we opted to do this so that it is consistent all year for all students in all courses. So because the high school model or the high school schedule is so difficult to maneuver all the different components, the decision was made that the only students that would report for face-to-face instruction will be students who are in these classes. So the MD students will come all days, as they're doing at the elementary and middle school as well. I failed to mention that, but the multiple disability students will attend all face-to-face days. Their CTE classes like culinary arts, nursing assistant, cosmetology, etc., those students will come to school. And because they are coming to school for the CTE class, they will report to school in the morning by 8 o'clock. And they will do their virtual class for block 1 in the school building in a location where they can log in and they can participate in their virtual class. And then they will attend their CTE classes according to their schedule in that classroom with that teacher for face-to-face. But that was the only way that we could get them to school, and they can participate in both the virtual and the hybrid lessons at the same time. So they will do their virtual classes in the building on those days. And so there's an A schedule, and then if you scroll down, you'll see there's a B schedule. We did have to split band into 2 groups because of the size of the band, and so there will be some students who will have band on A days and some students who will have band on B days, and you'll get that information when you get your final schedule as to when you have band. All other students will be participating in their lessons virtually. So all other classes will be done virtually at the high school. This is what the virtual only students will participate. So if you have chosen the virtual option for elementary, again, this is what your schedule looks like. So on the days that the teachers are not doing face-to-face instruction, your students will get to potentially participate in lessons with the teacher and with the other students in that class. But if the teacher is not doing face-to-face instruction in her building. So this is what all of the virtual students, their schedule will look like every day, but there will be some days when the hybrid students are joining in on those virtual lessons. And for the middle school schedule, again, it looks very similar, trying to keep a consistent time. One of the things that the principals discussed and the task force discussed is if we're able to go back to business as usual sometime during this year, we wanted it to be an easy transition for the students. So we tried to set up schedules that are very similar to the normal schedule they would have had in school so that they will be ready to make that transition into a regular school day when we're able to do that. So you have each of the schedules for 6th, 7th, and 8th, changes a little bit based on when they had their electives. And again, the high school is all virtual. So if you'll scroll down, you'll just see the time for each of their blocks. And allowing, again, time for them to have lunch. Want to make sure that parents understand that attendance will still be tracked, whether you are a hybrid student or a virtual student. We will need to know each day that your child is participating in lessons. So if you're a virtual student, your child will have to log in and sign in to an attendance sheet to let us know that they have logged in for that day. And then in addition to that, completion of that day's assignments. So it's not just simply signing in and saying I'm here, but completing the assignments that have been designated for that day by the teacher. So the teachers will be tracking the students' attendance and their progression on their assignments each day to determine if the child is considered present. Tardies, again, we want, just like in regular school, they need to be there and be there on time. So if the class starts at 8 o'clock, you'll see a little bit later, we're asking them to log in a few minutes early so that they're there and ready to start at 8 o'clock. Absences, we're asking parents, just like in the past, to please notify the teacher if the child is not going to be present for that day. And we're asking teachers, if you have a child that does not show up and that parent did not notify you, that you need to notify that parent, because we will have parents that will be working while their child is at home doing the virtual instruction, and they may not know that their child did not show up for class that day. So teachers will need to make sure they're constantly communicating with the parents as well. We discussed changes a little bit to the grading procedures for this upcoming year, based on the fact that we know we've had a loss of instruction and our students have missed some information. We know that neither of these models is going to mirror a traditional school year, and so that the pacing and everything is going to be a little bit different. We lessened the weight of test to 25%, taking a little bit of the pressure off of the test and just giving all of the classwork, daily assignments, and quizzes a little more waiting there, just because this is a different model than what we've worked for. This is for this year only. And next year, if we're back to business as usual, we'll go back to the old grading practices that we used. We've included in here the expectations, because we're going to need students, parents, and teachers working very closely together. So you will see student expectations of completing work on time, attending all sessions, working to the best of your ability, logging in 10 minutes before class, keeping the video on so that the teacher can monitor you if it's a live session. We know that we're going to need parent support, and we're going to need parent help as well. So there are parent expectations here, that you will make sure that the child has a place to do their work, that they have all of the devices charged and ready to go, offer assistance as needed if you're there, and definitely communicate with the staff, with the teachers, if your child is experiencing any difficulty, signing off on the activities that they have to do, making sure that they are completing and doing their work. And if you'll scroll down to the teacher expectations, again, the communication, tracking the students' attendance, making sure they're there and started the class on time. But we just wanted, to outline all of the expectations for both the students, parents, and the teachers. And then the school discipline will follow the code of conduct, which is still under review and still being finalized, but will go before the school board on Monday night as well. But any misbehavior will be handled through the code of conduct following those guidelines that have been created. So you will be able to reference that document for any consequences for misbehavior during virtual or hybrid lessons. So again, you'll get this document to go back and read in its entirety. I just skimmed over it to show you what we have created. And at this time, I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Pearson to cover the technology support.
Thank you, Ms. Rogers. Technology support. As it pertains to devices, students in grades pre-K through 12 will receive a division-assigned device, and students are expected to use these devices for the 2020-2021 academic school year. All parents and students will be required to complete the following documents. We have a BCPS student device agreement, which kind of outlines that the student agrees to the terms and conditions that we've applied for Brunswick County Public Schools. A student technology use agreement, which is very similar to the acceptable use policy that our students traditionally have done every year. A parent-student device agreement, just to make sure that our parents understand the responsibility of being able to have those devices in the home, as well as a remote learning checkout form. And the remote learning checkout form will be a form that will be housed at our central office, and the parents will receive a copy of that form in the event that there are any issues or connectivity problems, where we could reference that form and we will all be on the same page as to what you have in your possession. A device guide will be provided for students and parents that will outline our device agreement, at-home care, troubleshooting tips, and device shortcuts. We understand and we realize that this is very new, and a lot of our students have already had some of the Chromebooks in their possession during instructional time for the 19-20 school year, but we do want to make sure that we still outline some of the care and agreements that would need to happen in order to maintain the devices. Mobile hotspots. This is one of the big things that a lot of parents have asked about, and we're pleased to announce that we will be able to provide mobile hotspots at home for internet access use on a first-come, first-served basis, and it's by request only. Keeping in mind that we will only be able to provide one mobile hotspot per household by request. So if you have a student at Tatera Elementary School, and then you may have a student at Mahern Powell, at the high school, then you would only get one mobile hotspot for your household. However, both of your students would receive a division-assigned device. As it pertains to the connectivity, there have been questions about the access. While we have purchased the service, we cannot guarantee immediate connectivity by corporate carriers. The service is very similar to cellular service. As we all know, sometimes that can go in and out. So that is something to just keep in mind when using the mobile hotspots, because connectivity can vary depending upon the student's home location. The acceptable use policy, there are a lot of documents that we have that we listed above that the students and the parents would need to read through to make sure that you are in agreement with those terms. So that is a very important part to make sure that you read through as you receive those devices. And then in order to request a mobile hotspot for the start of the 2020-2021 academic school year, you would contact 434-848-3242. 3138 extension 4026. And additional information will be forthcoming as to when you could contact the school to be able to receive that device. On-premise access. We have guest networks that are currently in place at all 5 of our school locations. The guest network is available from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. and the guest network is BCPS COVID-19 guests. There's no additional information that you would need to provide other than when you pull up to the site, you would just need to turn on your Wi-Fi, connect your device to that network, and accept the terms and agreement, and that's it. We don't hold any of your information. We don't share any of your information, but those are the rules that would apply as it pertains to connecting to the guest network. Keeping in mind that we do have those guest locations. If you are planning to use those during our normal school hours for the 2020-2021 academic school year, please make sure that you adhere to the on-premise policy. This pertains to troubleshooting or device issues or connectivity issues. At no time should parents or students contact teachers, staff, administration within the building for assistance. These individuals will be providing instruction for hybrid learning during that time, and that's their primary focus. However, we do have a few support numbers that you can contact for immediate assistance should you need that. And we've also listed the guest network sites. Please feel free to visit any of the sites. You do not have to visit the site in which your child attends school. If there is a site that is closer to your home location, we would advise you to use that site. Student email and online communication. Students in grades 6 through 12 will have access to a division assigned Office 365 email account. Parental consent must be provided for students to receive access to their division assigned email account. For the 1920 school year, we did allow our students in grades 6 through 12 to receive an account, and it was by parental consent. So parents, if you are unsure as to whether or not your child has an account, ask your child. And if your child says no, please contact a member of our department and we can get that set up for you. As it pertains to the hybrid and remote learning, students will not be allowed to use their personal accounts. We have already outlined that with our teachers, that we want to make sure that for security measures, that they are using their division assigned account. As it pertains to instructional support from the technology perspective, student access for Google accounts will be available for students in grades K through 12. A large percentage of our students are familiar with their Google account and how to log into that. However, we do realize that it's been quite some time since we've been in an actual school setting. So if you do need that information, you can contact a member of the technology department by dialing 434-848-3138. And we'll be more than happy to assist you with making sure that your students have what they need to be able to gain access. Underneath their G Suite account, they will have access to Google Classroom, which is the platform that a lot of our teachers are planning to use. In addition to Google Drive, which will allow them to save all of their documents online, Google Docs, Forms, Sheets, and Google Meet. Our ITRTs, which are our instructional technology resource teachers, will be available for student support and parent technology support. This includes the G Suite access, student username and passwords, and instructional assistance as it pertains to technology. If you need immediate assistance requesting that information, we have listed the ITRT contact per building in this document as well, and the ITRTs can be contacted via email as well as cell. Google Sites. Earlier in the school year, before our school year ended, we created a Google Sites page, which had a lot of instructional materials that were duplicates of what had already been sent home for our instructional packet delivery. That site is still available. If you go to brunswickcps.org, we will continue to add additional instructional materials there as needed for print and or download. Something that may be a bit new, we are looking at hosting a monthly parent meeting because we know that our students, they are growing up in the age of technology, but we want to make sure that we still assist our parents to be able to provide support for their child at home. So as it pertains to some of the resources and some of the platforms that we use here within the division, we are planning to offer a monthly parent Zoom meeting where you can log in. We will have a Q&A session and have a few topics that we will discuss that may make things a little bit easier as it pertains to the virtual and or hybrid learning plan. And our BCPS technology support hotline. Students and parents will be able to contact the division's technology support hotline for assistance with mobile devices, hotspots, and basic troubleshooting needs. Sometimes you may get a device and you may think that it's a power issue or connectivity issue, and that's the purpose of this hotline. So we ask and we encourage you to use that number as opposed to calling your school directly should you have any issues or need any additional assistance. And that number is 434-848-3138 extension 4024. And now I will hand it over to Ms. Brown.
You're still on mute.
Good morning. I'm not Ms. Brown. This is Ms. Mallory. In regard to our school operations and health and safety procedures, I want to note that these are unprecedented times that we're in. The Center for Disease Control, CDC, and the Virginia Phase Guidance has provided guidance for schools and school districts to follow for opening of schools, regardless of the particular phase that we're going to be implementing. To keep in mind, some of the guidance includes, but it's not limited to, the implementation of strategies to prioritize the health of staff and students, mitigate disease transmission, and maintain healthy environments. Also to provide remote learning exceptions and teleworking options for students and staff who are at a higher risk of severe illness. Daily health screenings will be conducted. Staff and students wearing face coverings when physical distancing cannot be maintained, as is medically or developmentally appropriate. Face coverings are most important to wear in times when physical distancing cannot be maintained, but schools will have other prevention strategies in place, such as health screenings, physical distancing, enhanced hygiene and cleaning protocols, limits on gatherings as well. If you'll scroll down a little bit for me, Ms. Pearson. Based on these guidance expectations, Brunswick County Public Schools will implement the following plan of action to ensure safety, health, and well-being of students, as well as faculty, staff, and guests who are entering our buildings. In regard to our social distancing, scroll down a little bit for me, Ms. Pearson. Thank you. Thank you. During suspected or identified infectious disease outbreaks, such as the time we're experiencing currently, severe social distancing measures can be taken to reduce the spread of an infectious disease, such as discouraging students from sharing food and drinks, avoiding the touching of their eyes, their nose, or their mouth, washing hands frequently and sanitizing often, displaying of social distancing markers and signage. In terms of our employees screening, to help prevent the spread of COVID-19 and reduce the potential risk of exposure to our employees, we will be requiring employees to participate in a daily screening process, which includes temperature readings and completion of a questionnaire related to COVID-19 symptoms. Our employees have been engaging in these practices since March 23rd. Scroll down for me a little bit. In regard to student screening, temperature readings will be conducted daily by school staff on all students upon arrival to school. Parent or the guardian will be contacted on any students who are demonstrating symptoms of COVID-19 with the expectation that the student will be picked up. Parents will be provided with information on COVID-19 symptoms so they can pre-screen their children prior to sending them to school. Parents are advised to keep students home if they're exhibiting any of the symptoms of COVID-19 that you see here. I will now turn it over to Ms. Brown, who's going to elaborate on some additional operational procedures and practices.
Thank you, Ms. Mallory, and good morning, everyone. As we roll out our plan for disinfecting and cleaning procedures, our goals as a faculty and staff will be to keep commonly touched surfaces such as railways, door handles, computer keyboards, bathroom faucet surfaces, the gamut of where our students are moving about in the building clean on a regularly or a routine basis throughout the day using EPA registered disinfectant or a 10-to-1 water bleach solution or hospital grade detergent based cleaners. In addition, we will stay in consultation with public health for guidance on the frequency regarding changing HVAC filters to improve our air quality or to ensure our air quality is appropriate. When an employee or student is suspected with an infectious disease, it is identified or has been identified or left the building, we will work to clean that area. We will check all known places to make sure they have been thoroughly cleaned and disinfected. That cleaning process is outlined here as far as guidelines for the person who will be doing the cleaning and protocols to make sure that they are properly safe and secure in the process of cleaning. Scroll down, please. Here we have an outline of what the end of day protocols and during the day protocols will look like once our students vacate the building or while they're in the building. Classroom cleaning rags and disinfecting chemicals in high touch areas at the end of the day, disinfecting and spraying all high touch areas and workspaces, classrooms, office, hallways, and bathrooms, light mopping, and making sure that we're washing rags after cleaning for reuse. During the school day protocols, our bathrooms will be looked at hourly with disinfecting the toilets, stall doors, handles, sink faucets, door entryways, floors, emptying the trash, and working upon cleaning the walls and high touch areas or high traffic areas, using disinfectant aerosol sprays in spaces where our students are populating or moving about. For hallway and classroom transitions, we'll be looking at wiping down knobs, walls. The water fountains will be closed off. And then again, making sure that we're washing rags after cleaning for reuse. The grounds will be largely covered by our maintenance department because our custodial staff will be highly engaged in making sure the interior of the buildings are wiped down and disinfected. There will be a protocol for entrances for visitors to the building. These will be communicated and you'll be able to read those and see them posted before you enter. It would be advisable and it will be the expectation that if you are planning on visiting the building or for any visitors that come, that it is an appointment that's made or a notification to the building administrator that someone is coming so that we can follow the appropriate protocols. Parents and visitors must wear masks while they're visiting in the building. They will also be screened at the front door by a staff member with their temperature being taken, and they will be required to use hand sanitizer before entering further into the building. There will be a waiting area, and they will be escorted to the necessary place that they may have a meeting or need to meet with anyone. No one will be allowed to move about the building without being escorted. For buses and vehicles, the buses are cleaned by the drivers on a regular basis during the normal school year. However, during the suspected or confirmed infectious disease outbreak, the frequency of those cleaning schedules are increased. At the end of the day of each route, the bus will be cleaned immediately after students disembark. When buses complete their route at the end of the day, another cleaning will take place to ensure the bus is prepared for the next day's route. These two recommended cleanings are based on the nature and spread of the disease and guidance from public health department. Bus drivers may also consider wearing masks while on a route for their own personal protection. The transportation department and bus garage will oversee the cleaning of the county vehicles that will be aligned with the bus cleanings based on students embarking in preparation for the next day's route. Social distancing will be observed on bus transport for students with a limit of 10 to 15 students with consideration to the number of students given to a household. Example, if the minimum number of students allowed on a bus is 10, and there is a family of 3 students coming from one household, the total number of students to ride that bus will be 13. Moving on to food service protocols, the goal again is to maintain or follow the guidelines of social distancing And therefore, we will be limiting the services to only the classrooms. The guidelines for meal service will include sanitation before and after meals, and students must be seated receiving meals, must wash their hands and sanitize desks before consuming meals, and must sanitize their hands and desks after consuming meals. Students with food allergies will have their meals prepared following the direction of the physician and labeled accordingly as we've done in the normal school year. Their meals will be distributed with their class and not separately. It will be labeled for that student. Sharing food will be prohibited, and the teacher will enforce this as a classroom rule. In regards to communication, we will attempt to provide accurate, consistent, and timely communication with staff, students, and parents to instill and maintain public confidence in our schools. We will ask that you stay updated on our most current information by following our social media platforms, using the Remind app, visiting our school district website, and we ask that parents ensure that your phone numbers and information is up to date for the school messenger calls to make sure that you stay in the loop of information. We ask that teachers, students, and parents check their emails often. At this time, I'm going to now turn it over to Ms. Rogers.
Based on the survey we did before, the social emotional well-being of students was a hot topic for many parents. So we've included some additional information here and some resources on our website. You'll see a link that you can go to for social and emotional support. We've listed some of the community resources that are available and the supports for staff as well. They would directly contact Ms. Brown in the Department of Personnel. And we also took from the DOE a lot of resources that they have provided for parents. So if you'll scroll down, Ms. Pearson, you'll see a lot of links to different resources because again, the parents are going to be completely partners in this new model that we're learning and that we're using, and we need your help. So they give you lots of resources here from DOE on how to talk to your child about COVID and strategies for coping with stress and anxiety, just tons of resources. This is directly from the DOE website, but you will have this as well in the document that you can just click on the link and go to it at any time. And I believe, Ms. Pearson, if you'll scroll down, that concludes the plan itself, the document. So I'll turn it back over to Dr. Midgette.
All right. Thank you, team. And thank you to everyone who has been submitting questions. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to read the questions that I have and then call on, sometimes it'll be multiple individuals to assist one another to answer these questions. And parents and guardians, I still say if there's something that we can't answer at this point, we'll let you know and then definitely get an answer back to you. So those who are sending in text messages, if you feel like we didn't cover something clearly, please text your name, at least your last name, so that we know who to respond to later if we didn't get your question as clearly answered as you would like. That number again is 434-532-5175, and continue to add your questions in the chat feature. So a few of the questions that we've received so far via text, and I'm gonna have, let's see. On this first one, it says, what was the proposed face-to-face schedule for pre-K? Mrs. Rogers, can you go back to that portion of the presentation? Ms. Pearson, you may have to scroll back up.
Yes, I'm looking for that now. Pre-K will attend 2 days a week, Monday and Tuesday at Maharon-Powelton, and Monday and Tuesday at Tatera. We do not have a pre-K class at Red Oak, so it's Monday and Tuesday for both Maharon-Powelton and Tatera that they would attend.
Okay. All right, thank you. The next question that I received is actually 2 questions. The first one, will this information be on the BCPS website? Ms. Pearson, I would assume, unmute yourself. Thank you.
Yes, we will post it on the BCPS website as well as on our social media pages.
Okay, perfect. And for the calls that we're doing, once this document is approved by the board on Monday, because we realize we still need to make some adjustments, you'll have this posted as well as this call this morning that's recorded and the call tonight. We'll go ahead and post those, correct?
Yes, ma'am, that's correct.
Awesome. All right, here is the next question, and this is going to be for Mrs. Rogers and Dr. Carter. Will 1/3 of the students go to school 3 days of the week for 7th grade, and how will it be determined which students will go?
Okay. Dr. Carter, do you want me to take that?
The students will go to school with 1/3 of them for the grade level. And the reason for that is that if all 7th graders came to school on the same day, due to social distancing, they could not be in the same classrooms and they would not be with 7th grade teachers. In order to cover an entire 7th grade, the 7th graders would have to be sent to teachers of 6th and 8th grade. So in order for 7th graders to have their 7th grade teachers, only 1/3 of them can attend school each day. And the way that they will be grouped is by their bus route.
All right, thank you. The next question is a high school question. Dr. Thornhill and Mrs. Rogers. This question is from Mrs. Coleman. Just to clarify, high school students, and it's going to be 2 questions actually. High school students are all virtual unless they have a CTE class. And then also, can you talk about if there are any changes for seniors?
Okay, I'll take the first part of that. That is correct. It will be all virtual unless they have a CTE class, they're in the multiple disabilities class, or they're a band student. Those students will attend school face-to-face to participate in those classes. And I'll let Dr. Thornhill handle the second part of that question.
Okay, thank you, Mrs. Rogers, and good morning, parents. As it stands now, there are no additional changes for the seniors. If there are any changes, we will be notifying you via email or through guidance, but as it stands, there are no major changes.
Okay. All right, and then from the same parent, will the slide presentations be posted on the website? And that was what Ms. Pearson answered. Yes, we'll provide this entire presentation. Okay. All right, another question. And as you're sending text messages in, I'm just going to respond thanks to let you know that we answered your question. What is the procedure for SOL testing this year? Mrs. Rogers?
At this time, the information that we've received from DOE is that it appears that we will have SOL testing at the end of next school year. We do not know at this time if it will be waived as it was this past year. Currently, what we've been told is that we will still have testing. However, if we start school under phase 3, it is our understanding that they are going to request for a waiver for the test to count for accreditation. So students will still test at the end of next year, large part to get the data so that we can identify student needs and identify areas of remediation, but it may not count towards accreditation. It will also, we do not know, I'm assuming this question might be asking about verified credits for testing. So while they'll be able to take the test next year, there may be also additional waivers coming later for the ability to give local verified credits as we were able to do this past year. At this time, that information is not clear from the state. So I can't answer that fully, but that's what we know at this time.
Okay, all right, thank you. Ms. Rogers and Dr. Carter, this question goes back to you. It was a follow-up to the first question. Will the students go 3 days a week or 1 day?
They will only go 1 day a week. So 1/3 of the students will attend on Tuesday, a different third will attend on Wednesday, and a different third on Thursday. So at the middle school level, they are only attending 1 day a week, and the day will be determined by the bus routes. Which group they are in will be determined by the bus routes.
Okay. All right. The next question would be for Dr. White and Mrs. Rogers. What's the proposed plan for kindergarten and for 3rd grade at Tetero? And Crystal, I don't know if you want to pull that up on the screen.
I'll scroll back up. So 3rd grade at Tetero will attend on Wednesday and Thursday. And what was the other grade level, Dr. Midgette?
1 second.
I think it was kindergarten.
Kindergarten.
3rd grade, yes.
Kindergarten is Monday and Tuesday, according to the schedule.
Okay.
That's correct.
All right. 1 second. The text messages are coming in, so I just want to make sure I don't miss anyone. This next question is from Ms. Stephanie. My question is, how do you document which program you would like your child to attend? And I know that we had some extensive conversations about that. Ms. Pearson, Ms. Rogers?
Yes, we will be sending a survey out at the conclusion of the presentations today and this morning and tonight to get that information from parents. We're asking that each parent complete the survey for each individual child that you have. So if you have 3 students, we are going to ask that you complete it for all 3 students separately. That's because as a parent, if you decide that you want 2 of your students to do the hybrid, but you have 1 student who has a medical condition and you don't feel comfortable sending them to school and you want them to do virtual, you have that option. So you don't have to choose the same option for all children. So we are going to ask that parents complete the survey each time for each child, and it will ask whether you want the hybrid or the virtual. And if you want the hybrid, we're going to be asking you for your bus route, like where you will get on and off the bus, so that we can work on those bus routes and finalize those schedules. We will also ask again if you will need a hotspot, because we still have not heard back from all of the families from the previous survey that we did. So we are asking that question again. I know it's a repeat for some, but we really need to know just how many hotspots we need in order to make this plan work.
You will also need to submit that information by Monday, July the 13th at 8 a.m. And we will post that link on our social media pages as well as our school webpage.
Okay. All right. Another question I have, and it's going to be 3 questions, and it looks like it's primarily for high school, Dr. Thornhill and Mrs. Rogers. How do I get, it said, which classes are considered CTE classes? Do you want to just answer the first one and then I'll just ask the other 2? So which classes are considered CTE classes? They're going to pull that up on the screen.
Okay, so the CTE classes are the culinary arts, nursing assistant, cosmetology, advanced ag fab, and emergency technician, early childhood, and I think that's all. And then again, the band is also going to be considered because that's a face-to-face as well. So those CTE courses and then band.
Okay. The next question, this is probably Ms. Pearson. How do I get a new Google Classroom username and password for my high school student if his did not work before?
All right. So I'll scroll down. If you email and or call Ms. Kimberly Jones, she is the ITRT located for the high school. And I'll put that information here. Her contact information is 434-848-3138, extension 4023, or jonesk@brunswickcps.org. She can get that situated for you.
Okay, awesome. And one more question, Ms. Pearson. Will we be notified when and where to pick up the laptops and hotspots for virtual classes?
Yes, we'll be able to determine the exact date after we receive the survey results to understand what the need is per family. As I stated before, you would only get 1 mobile hotspot per household, but every child can receive a device.
Okay. Another question, Ms. Pearson, will we be able to keep the Chromebook and the Jetpack hotspot that they have for summer school currently?
No, you will not. Any students that have checked out a Chromebook and a hotspot for summer school, when the parents signed that agreement, it stated at the bottom that the device needs to be returned by July the 28th. That is because we need to make sure that we bring it back in. If there are any software updates that need to happen that would be pertinent for the school year, that needs to occur. And so no, you will not be able to keep it throughout the summer. You will need to return that device as agreed upon at checkout, and then a device will be distributed back to your child for the academic school year.
Okay, thank you. All right, the next one is just a comment for Totero. I like the schedule. So I just wanted to share that piece. Next in line, there are going to be 2 questions here. Can we switch programs? For example, go from hybrid to virtual and vice versa, depending on the need, and that's from Ms. Tamika.
Okay, if you choose to go hybrid and then determine that you do not want to continue with the hybrid, we will allow you to switch to the all virtual. However, switching from virtual to hybrid can pose a problem with bus routes and so forth. So we're asking that we do not want parents switching back to that model. but we would be willing to let you switch from the hybrid to all virtual because that does not impact bus routes, class sizes, and so forth. So once you submit the survey, we will ask that you stick with that proposed plan unless you are wanting to go from hybrid to virtual.
Okay, thank you. And Miss Brown, this question will be for you. Will meals be provided for virtual students? Also, well, answer that first part. Ms. Brown, will meals be provided for virtual students?
We will have a pickup the same as we're doing right now for those students that are virtual. So they will be able to register for meals and go through the pickup process that we already follow.
Okay. And the next question is going to be Mrs. Rogers and Ms. Mallory. If a child screens and tests positive for COVID-19 and is sent home, can they join virtual classes that day?
If they are up to it and feeling up to it, they should be able to join the virtual classes at any time.
Yes.
All right. The next question is from, and I'm actually going to just answer this one. The next question is from Ms. White. The question is, how will the holiday schedule be handled? We're still running a regular calendar. So the school will still start at the normal time. We're still going to run we're still planning to run a regular schedule. So holidays, things like that, will still come into play how they're normally scheduled on that calendar. The next question, proposed start date for this. Okay, I'm getting a lot of that. Proposed start date for this school year. And that is on what students come on August 10th. Is that correct, Ms. Rogers? I don't have it in front of me.
Yes, that is correct.
Yeah. All right, so students will return on August 10th. And I want to put this out there. I know you're probably hearing that other divisions are pushing things back a little bit later. Our concern is when you start thinking about everything with COVID-19 coronavirus and getting into flu season around October, November, we want to go ahead and get as much instruction, whether it be hybrid or the virtual, in place for our students in the event that there are some major changes that may need to occur at that time. So we are planning to still start school on time as of right now. Let's see. All right. And if I've already answered when school will start, August 10th. One second. All right, the proposed plan for governor school students, and will they be able to take their classes at Southside? Ms. Rogers?
Okay, it is my understanding that those governor school students should be receiving a letter this week from governor school, and it sounds like they will be predominantly doing virtual classes as well, unless your child has signed up for a lab course, a science lab class, and then they may have to at times come for face-to-face instruction for the lab. We do not have an exact schedule of that yet, but I believe that is forthcoming, but you should get a letter from governor school this week with more information.
All right. Next question for the high school. And I want to tell you, if you're adding comments in the chat feature, I'm going to get to them. So once you put it in there once, we have it. I'm just reading all the ones that came through the phone while the presentation was going, and then I will move over to the chat feature. So we're not going to ignore you at all. Just be patient with us, please. All right, this next question is for the high school and Dr. Thornhill and Mrs. Rogers. And it's kind of two parts. For the high school, will the teacher actually be providing oral instruction verbally? And is there a reason that high school students did not have the option to attend in person? So it's two parts to that question.
Okay. We worked diligently, the task force worked for weeks trying to figure out a high school schedule to bring those students in, but because the high school schedule is so difficult to maneuver with students taking various things, you can be in 9th grade but taking a higher level math class, and so to bring in those students for one day a week was just really difficult to create that schedule. So that is the reason that we went with the predominantly virtual, and also because those are the most mature students and able to handle more virtual instruction.
And one additional thing, Dr. Midgette and Ms. Rogers, we also wanted to look at the safety piece. And when you're dealing with that number of students, safety is always paramount relative to the number of students that we bring in.
Yep, absolutely. Thank you. This question is for probably Mrs. Rogers, Miss Mallory, and Dr. Carter. What's the schedule going to look like for a sixth grader that has an IEP or a 504 plan?
So students with IEPs or 504 plans, for 504s, those students are mainly operating with their non-disabled peers. So they will be attending whether it's a collaborative type class or it's just a general, straight general education class. For those students with IEPs, it will be based off of what's the best setting for that student, whether it's going to be a collaborative setting or if they are receiving some services in a resource room with the exceptional education teacher. So we're making every effort to accommodate all of our students' needs, no matter what the need is.
Yes, perfect, thank you. The next question, Mrs. Rogers, is the hybrid option only for elementary or is high school included?
The hybrid is really only an option at elementary and middle. At the high school level, the students come face to face, if they're in a CTE class, if they're in the multiple disabilities class or a band student. However, as a parent, you can opt for all virtual, even if you are a CTE student. That is an option. It will be a little more challenging to do some of the work in some of the CTE classes without the face-to-face and hands-on, but we are willing to work with parents to do that. But truly, it is not an option for, if you don't have CTE classes, it's really not an option to do the hybrid model at this time.
Okay. All right, I have another question. This one is going to pertain to students with disabilities. If you have a child that's in 4th grade, but only has special education services for reading, language, how will their schedule look? And the parent noted that they are on grade level for the other subjects.
Okay. So could you go to elementary for us, Kristy?
To the elementary schedule?
Yes, ma'am.
There?
Yeah.
Okay.
And Dr. Midgette, do they give any reference to if the child might be participating virtually or coming in?
No, they did not.
Okay. So at this time, I would say it looks like that students participating with their non-disabled peers for all the other content areas, but that in there, and I'll have to look closer at with this Dr. White or Ms. Harrison or Dr. Harrison. With the child being served for just the reading area, that we would have some remediation time for that child to participate in for those reading skills. But they'll participate with their non-disabled peers for everything else.
If I may interject, Ms. Mallory.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, every day from 2:30 to 3:15, we do have remediation / support, to provide for students who may need that additional support beyond the regular instructional time. So that will help those students, whether they need additional support for reading or for math.
Thank you, Dr. White.
Perfect, thank you. The next question is about high school. With the high school students that have, I guess, a shop class or CTE class, will they do their other subjects at home or at school?
They will pretty much have to do it at school because of the time frame of the classes. They would not have time to drive back and forth. So they will come to school and do their virtual classes somewhere in the building. Dr. Thornhill will have to have rooms set up for students to do virtual classes, and then they will go to their CTE class at the designated time.
Okay. All right, middle school question. Will they only have school 2 times a week? And I'm assuming 2 times a week in person. And it says Monday virtual and the day, and the day schedule Face-to-face. Okay, so I see what they're asking. I apologize. They're asking, will they only have school 2 days a week, meaning Monday being the virtual day and the other day that they have face-to-face? So can you clarify?
Yes. Hey, go ahead, Dr. Carter.
On Monday, all students will have their virtual class. And also on Monday, the teachers will share learning expectations, all assignment materials for that week, and the teachers will have pre-recorded videos, lectures, and lessons that either they make or they access through Virtual Virginia and make those virtual lessons available for students to access on demand. And the student will again have their 1 day of in-school, in-person class, face-to-face with the teacher. But on the other days of the week, the teachers have already provided the material that students will access for their virtual learning when they're not in school. And then on Friday, teachers will have office hours where they may be available for small group and individual response to students and online sessions that are live and face-to-face virtually.
So in essence, students at all levels are still in school 5 days a week. They will either be face-to-face in school or virtual. Even on the days that the teachers have the planning and the office hours, there will still be expectations for the students on those days, videos or assessments or things for them to do. So students will still have school 5 days a week. I think that for all schools.
Okay. All right, thank you, Mrs. Pearson. I have 3 children and 1 computer. Will I be able to get 2 additional devices?
Yes, that is correct. The only limitation would be if you needed a mobile hotspot. That's 1 per household, but each child can receive a division device.
Okay. Thank you. I have another question that just says, what days for 6th grade?
6th grade is Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday. I can't really say what day each specific student will go. 1/3 will go on Tuesday, 1/3 on Wednesday, and 1/3 on Thursday. Once we get the results from the survey and know exactly which students are coming for the face-to-face, we will be able to finalize those bus routes and then let the parents know what day of the week their child will attend.
Okay. Thank you. The next question is from, and I apologize if I say it wrong, Ms. Maisha. It's a few questions. How will this work for kids who maybe have a compromised immune system, such as asthma? Probably Ms. Mallory.
Ms. Mallory, you can address this, but again, that will be, I know some of the parents in the original survey that we did had a lot of concern about their child with asthma. So it will be the parent's choice if you feel that it is manageable at school under the conditions that we have described, that you can send them for the hybrid. If you feel that it's to the point that you don't feel safe with them coming to school, you can choose the virtual option. But if they are in school, Ms. Mallory, you can just expand a little bit on what we'll be doing with that.
So with that, they'll still be working with the nursing staff, as you have always. Your doctor will provide to us the asthma plan for your child. It'll be reviewed by the nurse for your school. And then from there, we will work on a way of executing that as we've done in the past.
Okay, thank you. The next question, same parent. How will the virtual option work for students whose parents work and may not be old enough to stay home? Just asking for advice, does the parent take the device with them?
So that's not an easy question. I know that's been a lot of the concerns also from parents. And I believe, and Ms. Pearson, you can chime in on this, the hotspot is something that can potentially be moved from one house. So if we give you a hotspot for your house, but your child stays, say, with a grandparent or an aunt, uncle, or someone else during the day, you can take that hotspot and that device to their house and be able to use it there. So the device can go with the child wherever they are for childcare. Now, I'm not sure about your childcare facilities. If you are doing childcare through a public facility, what they will allow you to bring in and out. But if you are staying with a relative or friend or something, you can move the device. Ms. Pearson, do you want to clarify that or expand on?
Yes, that is correct. And all of that information will be outlined in the device student agreement guide So if there are additional questions prior to signing the guide, please contact us so that we can kind of work through that and explain that piece of it. But that is correct, as Ms. Rogers stated. If a student receives a device in a mobile hotspot, it is in their possession for the 2020-2021 school year, so they can carry it to another house. We've also had situations where there may be parents that are co-parenting, and the child may be with one parent and then they go to another parent on the weekend. So if that device is assigned to that child, then they do have the ability to be able to carry that with them.
Thank you. All right, I'm going to start answering some of the questions from the chat, and then I'll go back to the text feature from Ms. Winfield. I have a student attending the high school. My concern about virtual versus hybrid: will the students have teachers through Virtual Virginia or teachers at the high school? I'm asking because there's a difference between hybrid and virtual, and I understand from the presentation that high school will be virtual, and just thanks for any clarity. Mrs. Rogers and Dr. Thornhill?
Yes, so the virtual will be the teachers, even if we use Virtual Virginia as a resource, our teachers will lead those classes and those lessons. It's a new plan that Virtual Virginia has offered this year. I know some parents have probably used Virtual Virginia in the past, and you've been assigned a teacher outside of the school division. We are using Virtual Virginia with our existing teachers. All of our teachers have access to the resources, the videos, the materials in Virtual Virginia, and will use them in their lesson.
That's correct.
All right, thank you. Next question from Ms. Thomas Pritchett. So children will be screened upon arrival to school. Wouldn't it be too late after riding the bus, exposing other children and the bus driver to the coronavirus if they are sick? And then as far as parents go, and as a bus driver, my concern would be that the parent would send their children to school knowing that their children are sick and or having symptoms before they leave home. She was just indicating that she's witnessed this on many occasions herself, and what precautions will be in place to protect the driver who the child has to walk by closely to get to their seats. So probably Ms. Brown and Ms. Mallory.
Yes. So thanks, Ms. Pritchett, for that question. We've had a lot of discussion around this. We started out looking at having the students screened at the bus stop upon getting on the bus and work through that. But ultimately realized that there will be students at the bus stop who, should they not pass the screening there, the families have already gone to work and there's no one to receive them back from the bus stop. So we did recognize that that's the world we're living in. So in regard to the first part of your question, we would say yes, all students will be screened upon arrival to school. All students will be expected to have their face coverings on while they're riding the bus, if it is medically appropriate for them. We are also asking our parents to work collaboratively with us to ensure the safety, the health, and well-being of all involved, because again, we are in unprecedented times. And so we want to keep everybody safe if at all possible. So if your child is experiencing symptoms of COVID-19 or flu-like symptoms when we enter the flu season, please make provisions to keep them home. Remember, no one works well or does any work when they're sick. And therefore, we ask for you to hold the kids at home. Ms. Brown?
The PPE that will be provided to the staff, and also the social distancing. The seating arrangement will be outlined to the bus drivers when they do their bus driver training. So those are other measures that have been put in place to make sure the students and the drivers are at appropriate distance on the bus.
Thank you. For Ms. Payne, are the younger grades split up on the days that they attend? And then when kindergarten goes for 2 days a week, is it the whole class at a time, or half one day and a half the other?
Okay, that's a great question. And no, the younger grades at the elementary school, they are not split up. The principals chose at the elementary level to divide their classes into smaller groups, and they will be in multiple rooms depending on the size of the class. If it's a class of 20, 10 will be in one room, 10 will be in another room. And they are using all existing staff to support those students in those rooms, and the teacher will work with all students but may have to go between classes. So it may be the classroom teacher in this room and a paraprofessional, or another teacher in the other room, and then they will swap throughout the day to provide instruction. But all kindergarten students will attend both days. Pre-K through third grade, those students will attend both days.
Okay. Thank you. The next is just a comment, just thanking Ms. Brown for presenting the food lunch distribution for students to ensure they're safe. That was from Dr. Burns. The next is a question from Ms. Anderson. Can we elaborate more on the middle and high school schedule? So Ms. Rogers, can you touch on those?
Yes. Okay. So for the middle school, again, those students, if you choose the hybrid model, will come to school one day a week, either Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday, based on the bus routes. So a third of the students are coming each of those days. Monday will be a virtual learning day for all students, and then the face-to-face for those who choose the hybrid model, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. At the high school level, it is all virtual unless your child is taking a CTE course, is enrolled in the multiple disabilities course, or is taking band. And then those students will need to come to school. They will do their virtual classes both at school and their CTE classes at school.
Okay. Thank you. The next question is from Mr. Seward, and it's similar to one of the ones we received in the text, but for the virtual high school classes, will the teacher be providing oral instruction via video? And there's a reason why we didn't give high school students an option to attend in person. And I believe Mrs. Rogers and Dr. Thornhill, you had touched on that a little bit earlier, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
And yes, at the high school level, the virtual will be a combination of possibly pre-recorded videos, some videos from Virtual Virginia, and some live sessions with the teachers. So it will be a combination of the three.
Okay. All right, next question from Ms. Singleton. Can you change options mid-year? For example, can you change from hybrid to 100% virtual if you feel that things are not safe?
And yes, we answered that question as well, but yes, you can go from the hybrid to the virtual model, but we are saying that it's going to be very difficult to go from the virtual model back to hybrid because that changes class sizes and bus routes and would require a lot of additional work to make that work out. So we are asking that you not switch back if you decide to go virtual, that you not try to switch back to hybrid.
Okay. Good morning. Well, good afternoon now. What are the plans for students with special needs?
Okay, according to the schedule, again, multiple disability students at all levels, elementary, middle, and high, will attend all face-to-face days. The early childhood special ed students are receiving 2 days of face-to-face instruction, and additional special ed students at the high school that maybe have been identified may attend for face-to-face instruction as well. Other than that, as Ms. Mallory has already indicated, those students will participate with their peers in the classes. There will be collab settings, so some of the special ed teachers will be a part of those classes and provide breakout sessions or small group lessons and instruction to those students as needed, as well as the remediation time, as Dr. Weich mentioned, that is built into the schedules. So it will basically be dependent upon the child's IEP and the needs of that individual child.
Okay. Thank you. Another question from Ms. Thomas Pritchard. Is it possible to install some type of plastic shield on the bus so that the driver can have that between the first seat behind the driver or on the side? Looking at maybe this will help protect the driver from being exposed because of numerous children entering the bus. And I actually will answer this question. I had a call with the Department of Ed first thing this morning. This was actually one of the questions. There are several things that we have to look into to see whether or not that's even feasible and that it'll be safe in the event that the driver needs to get off the bus, and particularly if it's on the side that students are entering. We still got to make sure that it's safe in the event that there's an accident or something happens and the driver needs to be able to exit the bus. From what we're learning, really the best that we have so far in terms of not transmitting the transmitting the coronavirus would be the wearing of the mask for the students and for the bus driver. Our understanding what the guidance that we have so far, and again, this is all fluid, it changes because as CDC is learning more, we learn more. But that a quick passing of someone, and if that student has the mask and the driver has the mask, that quick passing should not be problematic. I think it's more so problematic if we're in each other's presence in a sense that, we're standing closely for a period of time. But that is something that I believe many school divisions are looking into to figure out what we can do as far as the bus travel is concerned. But right now, the guidance that we've received really is the wearing of the mask and making sure we have the social distancing on these school buses, and that we're sanitizing these buses between each run. Ms. Escobar, will parents be allowed to change how the students attend school? And yes, we did answer that question. If you start the hybrid and you're uncomfortable, then we will allow the variants to move to virtual. From Ms. Shamika J, what day will students attend middle school that do not ride a bus? Ms. Rogers?
That's a great question, and I think once we get the data and know how many students are coming each day, we can then plug in those students who are going to be car riders based on the bus routes, because again, we've got to look at the number of students on each bus, but then also the number of students who will be in each class each day. So once we send out that survey and parents respond by Monday, hopefully 100% participation, we'll be able to make those decisions and finalize those schedules as soon as possible.
How is Head Start affected, and will it follow the ECSC or pre-K schedule?
I have reached out to Head Start, and we are working together on a schedule for them. Initially, they were looking at sending a third of their students 3 days a week. I'm not sure if that is still their plan, or if they have determined if they can do half of their students. They only have 2 staff members, and so they can only divide their students up so much between the 2 of them, and they have limited space. So it's really their call, and they are working on finalizing registrations at this time to know how many students they'll have in each class. So I do not have an answer to that, but we are working with them on determining what days they would attend.
Okay. All right, from Ms. Steffen, it doesn't look like Tutero has an ECSC schedule. What is their schedule? Dr. White to Ms. Rogers.
It's listed as MD.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
And we can adjust that. We can list it separately so it's clearer for everyone. Thank you.
All right. And then will buses transport Head Start students?
Just as we have in the past, the Head Start students that are 4-year-olds will be able to ride our buses. And that's what we're waiting on them to give us, that list and the addresses, so we can work them into our bus routes and letting us know how many days they want the students to attend.
Okay. And this question is going to be multiple people I'm going to call on all together. It's going to be Dr. Thornhill, Dr. Carter, and Ms. Mallory. Will there be any sports, any athletics?
Dr. Thornhill, you want to start, or Dr. Carter?
Well, I'll start it. As it stands now, we're working on a comprehensive plan, and that's in conjunction with VHSL. As you know, sports, not just locally, but nationally, they're trying to come up with a plan. Right now, we just don't know, but we have put a comprehensive plan together. We've met with all of the athletic directors as well as with Ms. Mallory. And we're going to present this to the superintendent as well as the school board, the next school board. So right now, we're still in the planning stages. We just don't know.
Perfect. Thank you. Another question, Ms. Steffen, the curriculum used for virtual learning?
We're actually going to continue to use our existing curriculum materials, textbooks, and resources, in addition to the Virtual Virginia resources that we now have access to through the DOE. So it will continue to be the same curriculum. Even if you're doing all virtual, we will still make sure that you get your textbooks, workbooks, or whatever you need from the school to be able to participate. And then we will supplement with Virtual Virginia and the teachers' like I said, doing their own creative videos for the curriculum.
Okay. All right, and then is the 1 day in class required, or can it all be done remotely?
It can all be done remotely. If they choose the virtual option, they can do it all virtual, yes.
Okay. All right, question from Ms. Hardy. If we can pull up the high school schedule again. And she just asked, will the CTE students report to school every day or just on their days for the CTE classes? And she just wanted to take another look at that schedule.
Yes, they would only need to come on the days that they have CTE. So if they have a CTE class only on A days, they would just attend on A days, which would be Monday and Thursday. If their CTE class or band is on a B day, then they would only attend Tuesday and Friday.
Okay. All right, question from Ms. Payne. It's a great question. Will the students be counted absent if they cannot log on and complete any work until later in the day because parents are working?
That is a great question, and we've had a lot of conversation about that. I mean, ideally, we want students to be able to log in and participate during the day, but we recognize that if parents are not there and they're not able to get on, that may pose a problem. So we'll be looking for a check-in, the electronic check-in at some point, and completion of that day's assignments. So even if it is later in the day, it is possible that they can still be counted present. However, if there are virtual live lessons, they may miss out on those if they're not able to participate during the day and have to wait until the evening because they will only be presented at that time.
Okay. If I choose virtual learning, will I still need to fill out a district form so my child can receive her work from the school that she attended since day one?
Yes, I'll take that question. So
Go ahead.
Out-of-district forms, we would suggest you still complete the out-of-district form as it is a part of the enrollment process. And should we move past phase 3 and open back fully as business as usual, we will need to have the superintendent's approval on your child being placed in that school since it is an out-of-district school for you. So we please ask you to go ahead and follow the regular enrollment process with completing the out-of-district form. Thank you for that question.
Okay. All right. Next question from Ms. Bianco. If the conditions with COVID-19 improve, is there a possibility of transitioning back to a traditional school schedule? That would be our ultimate goal, Ms. Bianco, is that this whole situation can eventually be behind us and that we can get back to business as usual, in person, educating our students. So yes, ma'am. Ms. Stephan, what was the policy or the procedure for visitors? Can you pull that back up on the screen? I know it's kind of down towards the bottom, I believe.
There.
All right, can you briefly just kind of hit those key points for visitors again, Ms. Brown?
Yes, ma'am. Anyone planning to visit the school need to get permission prior to the visit. When coming into the building, you must wear a mask. You will be screened at the entrance by a staff member with a temperature taking and required to use hand sanitizer before coming in the building. You will be escorted around to the designated areas. You will not be allowed to roam the hallways or go to your child's classroom for any reason. You will be escorted out to 2 scheduled meetings, and at the conclusion, you will come back to the office to check out. Hand sanitizer will be available for use on your way out.
Okay. Perfect, thank you. All right, and Ms. Pritchett, thank you. We appreciate the questions. Let's see, for middle school students who go 1 day a week, will it be the same day each week or will it rotate?
It will be the same day each week.
Okay. All right, pull up the high school schedule. Nursing assistant program, the comment was doesn't have an A or B schedule. So what would that schedule look like? I believe I thought I saw it on there, but if you could pull it up.
So there's a nursing assistant 1 class and a nursing assistant 2 class. So if your child is in nursing assistant 1, they would attend on A days. And if they are in nursing assistant 2, they would attend on B days.
Okay. All right, the next question, if a teacher contracts COVID-19, will their classes have to quarantine for 14 days also? Ms. Mallory.
Wow, yes, excellent question. So if the child has come in direct contact with that teacher, then yes, those children will be quarantined for 14 days. Anyone in direct contact with anyone who has a confirmed case of COVID-19 is required under current guidance for a 14-day quarantine. And we do a self-monitoring. There will be a self-monitoring form that all involved will have to complete.
Okay, thank you. All right, I'm gonna answer a few other questions on the phone, so I'm gonna go back and forth a little bit. And then we are going to wrap this up shortly, but I wanna make sure I get to everyone's questions. The next question is, will face masks be provided for children, those who do not have a mask upon getting on the bus? And will face coverings be required for students and staff throughout the day? Ms. Rogers and Ms. Mallory.
Okay, so we are asking in the survey, if you choose the hybrid model, if you will be providing your own face mask, because we know that a lot of parents have already purchased something that their child may feel more comfortable wearing. And then if not, we will have face masks available. And again, it is the expectation that they will wear the face mask on the bus and throughout the day when social distancing cannot be maintained. So that's kind of the guidance that we're following from the CDC. When they are in their classroom, they're 6 feet apart from the other students. They may not have to wear it the whole time, but if they're in a situation where they cannot be socially distanced the full 6 feet, then it is the expectation that they will wear it as developmentally appropriate, because again, we know that we have the younger children and then some medical issues with the asthma that may change that a little bit.
Perfect, thank you. And I just had another parent was asking about the requirement for masks because their child has bronchitis. The next question is, how will the high school IEP meetings be held? Will they be scheduled by appointment, in person, or via Zoom?
So we are holding IEP meetings via Google Meet. It is HIPAA compliant and FERPA compliant. And all IEP meetings are scheduled. So we work collaboratively with our parents on the scheduling of those meetings. So they'll still be done that way. And we also have purchased DocuSign, which will allow us to electronically sign our documents. So in case people have to participate all virtually, we have that option as well.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank
and
you.
Ms. Mallory, Ms. Rogers, this is probably going to come right back to you all. How will enrollment for 6th graders be handled for electives? And then will they still have to take the Tdap shot?
For the immunization, thank you for asking that question, because my nurses wanted me to remind everyone that there are no allowances from the state on any immunizations. So please, if your child is preparing for pre-K or kindergarten, rush on out and get your physicals done and get your immunizations handled. If your child is going to 6th grade or I want to say 7th grade, there's an age range for the Tdap shot now. So make sure your child is in the proper age range to receive that Tdap and go ahead and schedule that as well.
Okay.
And Dr. Carter, do you want to answer the part about the elective? I believe there was a question about how will they enroll in the elective for middle school?
Yes, the middle school students will have elective classes on a rotating schedule, and the classes will be exploratory. So a student may have computer information systems for 9 weeks, and then when that 9 weeks is up, that student may then move into career investigations, and after that they would have PE and possibly another class. But students will have a rotating schedule for all electives, with the exception of band, which is a year-long class.
Thank you. Next question, if you have a student that has a medical diagnosis and the parent does not feel safe sending them to school, How can that be handled if the student has an IEP for reading, language arts, or speech services? And that's a great question.
It is a great question.
Was that a middle schooler you said?
It's it doesn't say whether it's middle school or high school, but I'm thinking it's probably, I'm not sure. The parent, if you text me back, I will elaborate, but it's just saying if you have a student that the parent doesn't feel safe sending the student to school, how are the IEP services for reading, language arts, and speech in particular going to be handled?
So your child can participate virtually, and those services.
Elementary.
Elementary, okay. They can participate virtually in their classes. As Dr. White indicated earlier, on our elementary schedule, there is a remediation block, which will allow for them to get the additional assistance in those areas that there have been identified. And in regard to the related services, we can work with your related service providers on having those services provided virtually as well.
Okay, thank you. And I'm going to get to a few of the questions that we had individuals submit these questions to Ms. Clary prior to today's Zoom, and I do not want to forget you for getting your questions in ahead of time. I know Ms. Williams asked about plans in place for Governor School. I believe Mrs. Rogers had answered that a letter is going to be sent shortly. Will Governor School students still be picked up, Ms. Rogers?
We are waiting on that schedule since they will only go to Southside for certain classes. Once we get that schedule, we'll be able to determine, but yes, we do still plan to try to provide transportation. It will be on a limited basis only as they need to go for the lab classes.
Okay. And then I think the next question's been answered in terms of the remote learning for the high school. Ms. Stewart has a question. What if we homeschool our students because I don't feel safe sending my child back to school? If I have one Chromebook and I plan to purchase another Chromebook, that she's planning to purchase another Chromebook, what time would the kids get up? How will the classes be set up if they have social distancing? She was looking at the diagram that shows only 8 students in the classroom. And then some classes have more than 8 kids. Obviously we had more than 8 students in each class before the crisis began. And then they just had questions about bus routes and how this is going to work for students, for parents that work full time, looking at bus schedule and school hours. And then just looking at if parents want homeschooling, which I think they're probably looking more so at the virtual, will the same material be the same throughout the school year? So Ms. Rogers, can you just touch on that?
Yes, and again, I think this is referring to our virtual learning. So if you choose the all virtual learning model, we will, number one, we will provide the device for your child so you do not have to go get another Chromebook. The content covered will be the same, whether you're doing hybrid or virtual. The teachers will be using the same pacing guide, same resources. So the content will be the same regardless of which model you select. If you choose the hybrid model and you come in for face-to-face instruction, again, the students will be split into different classes. So even if the whole 3rd grade class comes, half of the 3rd grade, this class may be in one room and the other half would be in another room to keep that social distancing. And by doing that, by reducing the numbers of students that come each day, the bus routes can then be modified to bring fewer students each day, and therefore we can have the social distancing on the bus as well. And again, a detailed schedule will be sent out once we know specifically who's doing which model.
Okay, perfect, thank you. I have some questions for Ms. Davis, and there are a couple questions. There are going to be a few that we probably are not going to answer because we answered earlier, but I'll refer to those. Basically asking why don't we have public health professionals on the panel? With this, as you know, that this is not just a Brunswick crisis, not just a statewide, but it's a national crisis. And many of our members of the Department of Health are spread relatively thin because we have been tapping into them as a resource quite often. We actually have a regional call with them on Thursday to get any new information and updates. But I assure you, Ms. Mallory has worked in her department, has worked with them tirelessly and around the clock getting information. anything that we do is always carefully vetted to make sure that we're within the CDC and Virginia Department of Health guidelines. Another question that has come up quite a bit: what happens if a parent has to work 40 hours a week and the child goes to school about 2 days a week? Who will educate the child? It's a great question, and I'll be honest with you, we recognize your concerns that childcare is going to be a challenge, and we definitely understand your concerns. We don't have a definitive answer for that. The only suggestion we really could make at this point is really talking with your childcare providers. I'm pretty sure that you're going to see that almost every division right now is doing some type of flexible scheduling to make sure that our main priority is just to keep these students safe and to educate them appropriately. So I do apologize. I don't have a clear cut or great answer for that. We've touched on the buses. They're going to be sanitized twice a day. After each run, the buses are going to be cleaned. Faculty and staff wearing masks. Yes, it will be the expectation that faculty and staff wear masks when social distancing cannot be practiced. There were questions about students wearing masks. We did already touch on those. There was one question that came up, how will we treat students who refuse to wear masks because their mom and dad said we don't have to wear masks? And I think we've all probably faced that or have seen that even with the governor's executive order about wearing face coverings. And I think many of us have gone in the stores where, and it's, we can't ask about particular medical conditions. So some of us wear masks, some of us don't. We're always going to work to try to educate the student on the importance of wearing that face covering. It's from CDC recommendations that we wear the face coverings in public settings, and particularly around people who don't live in our household, especially when social distancing measures are difficult for us to maintain. So we're still going to continue to push and educate that fact. Another question: how will teachers social distance from ages 4 through 9 years old? Ms. Rogers?
Yes, that is going to have to be a task that is the teachers teach at the beginning of the year, like many of their procedures and routines in their classroom. This will be something new that they will just have to educate the children on. What does it mean to social distance? We do not shake hands. We do not hug at school. Things that we hate that we're having to teach our students at this time, but under these circumstances, we don't have a choice. We are going to use some markers, some markings on the floor to show them the 6-foot distancing so they can see and understand what that means to be apart. We're going to have the desk already set up in the classroom. We're removing additional desks out of the space so that they can only sit in their assigned seat. So it's just going to have to be taught to them through our procedures and routines at the beginning of the year if they are a hybrid student coming in for face-to-face instruction.
Thank you. And I want to tell everyone, probably if you have any final questions, I need you to drop them now because we're going to go ahead and wrap this up. We're going to do this again tonight at 7 p.m. But I'm going to get to the questions now at this point. So if I don't call yours, it's only because it's been answered already. But if you can take this next 60 seconds, any additional questions that you have, please text or drop them in the chat. And if there are questions that, and please see that there are questions that have not been answered at this point. We're gathering all these questions, and the goal is to eventually, and let me know if I'm correct, Ms. Rogers, I know we had talked quite a bit about putting out a frequently asked questions once we went through this process and got board approval and everything on Monday, correct?
Yes, we plan on creating one that we can put on our website that respond to all of these frequently asked questions.
Okay, awesome. All right. The next question, will they be testing at school? And we're wondering if it's pertaining to COVID or academic testing. So we're going to just answer it from the standpoint of COVID-19 testing.
And the answer is no, we will not be testing for COVID-19. We are not a medical facility, so we're not set up to do that. The tests are relatively expensive from what I've been told. But keep in mind that there are sometimes some free options around, and I've seen on Facebook and other social media platforms where testing has been available to citizens, but we will not have testing at our school sites.
Awesome. Will parents have the option? We've already discussed that. What steps, and I think this is going to encompass a lot of the other questions, what steps are we taking to ensure the safety of our students? Ms. Mallory?
Yes. So Brunswick County Public Schools are taking the following steps to ensure the safety of our students. We're doing daily sanitation of the buses and the vehicles. We're wearing masks, screening procedures, which include daily temperature readings upon the arrival to schools. Hand sanitation stations are set up, promoting hand washing. Social distancing markers are going to be placed around, and reducing the number of people occupying our educational setting, as well as we also have signage on the outside and the inside of our buildings regarding if you're exhibiting any symptoms, we're asking you, please do not try to enter our buildings. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, just 1 second. Another question. When will survey and documents be available? The survey, we're going to drop that link in the chat, but the survey information, the full survey will be available when, Ms. Pearson?
At the conclusion of the 7:00 p.m. meeting. So we want to make sure that we give our 7:00 parents a time to hear the same information, and then we will post the survey at the conclusion of that meeting.
Awesome. And then the documents will all be available. Like I said earlier, this presentation, which you'll be able to see the documents, that's all going to be posted later. And after the board meeting on Monday, you'll get the final document, because we do have to post this and submit it to the Virginia Department of Education. Great question. Will there be a scheduled session before school starts? If there are any changes to what's been proposed today? Absolutely. So we will do the same format to go through any changes at that time with parents and guardians. Next question. It's 2 parts. Ms. Rogers, first part for you, second part for Ms. Pearson. What will the schedule be for GED students? Ms. Rogers?
Those students can also participate virtually in their GED prep. We have not been given updated information yet about the testing for GED, but we assume that we will get more information from DOE at that a little bit later time. But most of that was a virtual program anyway that the students did, so they can continue to participate virtually for their GED prep.
Okay. And Ms. Pearson, will the students be allowed to use their own personal computers to access the virtual options?
We have gone back and forth a bit with that. We would prefer the recommended device would be the division assigned device, because that allows us to be able to run reports as far as checking student attendance and some other things and the security measures of that. At this point, our recommendation is to receive the division assigned device. However, if you have a child that may have certain accommodations and you do feel that the device you have may be better to fit that child's accommodations, then that is something that we can work with the Department of Pupil Personnel to determine if that will be a better fit for your child. But at this point, our recommendation is to use the division assigned device.
Okay, perfect, thank you. What will the number of students in each elementary school class, what will be the number of students, I guess, allowed in each elementary school classroom at one time?
It's roughly 8 to 10, depending on the size of the classroom. We've had to actually measure classrooms, and we have some that are a little larger than others. So roughly between 8 to 10, depending on the size of that classroom.
Okay, awesome, thank you. All right, I am back on the screen now. Let's see. Apologies. All right, technology question from Ms. Winfield. Will students be using Desmos software or be given graphic calculators to use for higher level math? That's probably.
So that may be a 2-part question. As it pertains to the devices, the Desmos calculator app has already been installed on all devices for students. We did it division-wide because we didn't know which students may or may not need it. So that has already been installed, and that will be a part of our software updates for all devices prior to being sent home to the students. And some of our students have already currently used that application on their Chromebooks. But as far as the physical calculators, I think that may be a Mrs. Rogers question.
I guess the question would be, would they still need a physical calculator if they have the Desmos app? I believe the Desmos app can do everything that they need. If they do need a physical calculator for some reason, an IEP accommodation that requires them to have it, then yes, we will make it available. But this also follows up to Ms. Pearson, the question a few minutes ago about using one of our devices. We have installed certain apps on our devices that the students may need for instruction. So that's another reason for parents to use our division assigned device versus a personal device.
And if parents are reluctant to use the division assigned device, in order to be able to access a large percentage of the instructional materials that will be provided by the teacher to the student would still need to log into their Google account to be able to do that. However, with the division assigned device, once they power the device on and log into the account, as a student, they would have everything that they would need at their fingertips without having to have additional logins and passwords.
Well, thank you. Question from Ms. Hargrove about children having to wear masks on the bus. Yes, we are. That is the expectation, that the children will have a mask on the bus. Thank you again, Ms. Pritchard. Ms. Cook-Mason, if a student is homebound, how will that work?
So if a student is homebound, you will still need to have the doctor who is treating the student to complete the homebound application and submit it for approval. Upon approval, that student can participate in the virtual classes, as well as we will work on provisions for assisting that student individually with a homebound instructor. So as usual, please contact Pupil Personnel Services so we can work through all of those particulars for your student, because it will vary from child to child. But thank you so much for that question, Ms. Cook.
Thank you. Ms. Green has a question. If a family just moved to the county, what will they need to do to enroll their children? Ms. Mallory?
They need to contact the school that their child will attend to complete those enrollment documents.
Okay.
And Ms. Green, I'm dropping you something in the chat box, which will give you the information to go to our website and contact the appropriate schools for your children. And welcome to the county.
Yes.
All right. What is CTE? I see what Ms. Pearson answered, career and technical education. And those who are probably seasoned and a little more seasoned than I am as well, it was the old vocational education. So it's just a new word for the same thing for VOTEC and vocational ed. Let's see. Contact for that form, emailed or mailed. And I know, Ms. Mallory, you're dropping something in there for Ms. Green now. Ms. Anderson said you guys are doing a great job. Thank you. You all have some good questions. You are making us work that much harder, and it's good because we want to make sure that we have a solid plan that we present on Monday and be in a position that we're going to do the best thing for our students. Ms. Hawthorne, will middle school students be able to take classes like Spanish through Virtual Virginia like they have in previous years?
Dr. Carter, do you want to respond to that one?
Virtual Virginia classes are available to students. And because that class is taught virtually, it would not be limited by school with not being able to have students in school. Although we have not yet received specific information from Virtual Virginia as to how the proctoring would work. When students take the Virtual Virginia class, the one part that they're required to have a teacher like tests and quizzes. So if a student is enrolled in a Virtual Virginia class and they're on the hybrid model, there are certain aspects of the class that would have to be completed at school, such as taking a test or a quiz to ensure that the student was ethical and did not use resources or cheat while the test was going on. At the end of each physical day of school, we have a window of time at the end of the day for enrichment, and those type of activities could be completed at that time.
Okay. Thank you. Ms. Anderson, what is the best number to get my son registered for middle school? And they are Brunswick County residents. So I guess what's the best phone number for them to call? Can you put out that number?
134-848-2132. And I dropped her a message in the chat box.
Awesome. Thank you. Let's see. Ms. Height said, thank you. Dr. White says, excellent job, team. Excellent job to you all. Yeah, you've been rocking and rolling. Miss Mallory dropped some information. Miss Hawthorne, okay. All right, that question's in there. Miss Green saying thank you. No, thank you, Miss Green. Miss Pritchard, yes, I understand. She's saying extremely hot on the bus when thinking of a mask. And she was just putting out there that parents may want to consider transporting if they have possible, if the child to avoid any medical emergencies. I'm assuming the child has some type of medical condition. You know, she was saying any child who has asthma. So yes, it may be warm on the bus depending on what time of year and everything it is. And so those are individual decisions by those parents, but we do have the transportation available. I'm just gonna check this phone, make sure I didn't miss anyone.
And Dr. Midgette, while you're checking, if I may, as it pertains to those videos and other documents that will be posted on our website, I know traditionally we put everything in the news and announcements section, but as we continue to get information, we have created a tab on our web page. It's beside our headers where you see school board and parents and teachers, and directly in between teachers and parents, there is a 2020-2021 return to school tab. There's nothing listed there yet, but that's where you would be able to go to find these additional resources and videos and other items. So we're trying to put everything in one particular location as opposed to having them in our news and announcement section.
Okay. All right, anything anybody wants to share in terms of panelists for the good of the group before I close this out? All right, hold on. I think something just came through. Oh. Okay, it just says great presentation, all inclusive with awesome information. Thanks to everyone involved. No, thank you all for being patient and being on this call today. Your questions were great. So it gave us, you definitely challenged us, which was wonderful because it's given us a lot of good information as we start to finish up and finish molding this plan. So again, I thank all the parents and guardians who were on the call today. Thank you to our lovely panelists. We really appreciate you. We even have some that are on vacation, and I feel horrible that I'm taking your time, but we do appreciate that your dedication, your continued dedication to the school division. And Ms. Coleman, thank you. We are, Ms. Coleman just shared with us, together we are strong and we are Brunswick strong. So without further ado, parents, if you participated this morning into this afternoon, you do not have to participate at 7 tonight, but if you want to join us, you're welcome to do so. And again, Ms. Pearson has already provided information when she gets this posted. We'll definitely let you all know. So without further ado, just thank you. We appreciate you. And we will have more information out to you soon. Thank you. Bye-bye.